agenda, which is our bike tour, and Peter and myself and John were the lucky inhabitants of that.
Yeah.
Would you like to go ahead and start from your observations, your whatever?
It was a good tour, and I thought that was my first time seeing the Sharrows in action. I thought they were great. And, to some extent, it's advertising the fact that cyclists are around, and so there's just it's more the awareness of drivers who start to see them. I thought that was definitely progress.
I have a couple comments. One, I did not find Alameda as scary as I thought it was going to be because it had a separate lane.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I was like on Atherton Avenue, most of the cars took more than 3 feet that they were away. A police car came right at 3 feet, and it was a little scary for me. And then some woman racing down the street came a lot scary, and that was scary for me. So I have a lot more empathy for the bicyclists as they go. But on the whole, I thought it was wonderful. But what is the wisdom that Selby Road does not have sharrows? Selby.
Oh, is this the west one that goes to?
West
Yeah,
Selby or Selby
the
Lane?
El Camino.
Isn't that on
The one that goes to El Camino.
the? Yeah,
Oh,
I thought
it
it was supposed to
doesn't?
be
That's
on
not where the,
plan to
that's
be
not where the
class-
bike route is.
I thought it was supposed to be class.
The bike
2
route
at
comes
some
down
point.
Oakwood, right?
Right,
The bike route comes down Oakwood, hits Selby, and then heads west.
right, that's just a one.
It doesn't go, it never goes to El Camino. You're supposed to stay off El Camino. El Camino does not have a bike route.
But what about from where the bike route comes and yet the school is still to the
Right.
left?
Yeah, I thought the original plan, I don't, just going by memory, is that supposed to be class 2 at some point?
I know that the Selby that is connected to Atherton Avenue has the sharrows.
Right,
but the-
right, but I think
But
the section
from
Yeah,
the school down
goes
to
El Camino or
El
just
Camino
Oakwood.
doesn't have it.
Yeah,
I
it's,
agree.
it was never in the plan. It was never.
It's identified in the master plan that class 2 bicycle facility with pedestrian accommodation, Selby is listed under that.
Yeah,
As a
that's
class
what
2.
my recollection was, so
Okay.
arguably you could put that as temporarily the sharrows, I would agree with that. But
Yeah, that was just my concern because I know there's a lot of children who walk with parents.
All the way from El
From
Camino
El
up,
Camino
there's no bike,
up that way.
everything's this way.
Okay, any other comments? I know that we were the only, it was fun. It was a nice day. It was good. That was it. Loved that, I thought. When Bill gets here, we'll go to B.
Here it is.
There he is.
Oh, he's right here. His timing is perfect.
Am I timing? Is it my turn to speak?
Yes.
Yeah, we just went to
Mhm.
B, so I think you were gonna have.
Okay, so there's a couple of things that the discussions with the council and discussions with the city manager that you need to be aware of. So first off, as you know, we put down the sharrows, and even though the sharrows were put down in accordance with the state law, which, if we don't do it per the state law, then the town assumes liability, and the town doesn't want to assume a bunch of liability, because we all have to pay for that. But in some cases, the placement of those and the additional signs could have been done a little bit better. So like when you're coming up to a corner and there had just been one, we put another one, and maybe we could do without one. In some cases, there's been a sign that was on a steel bar going up, and right behind it is another bar, and perhaps we could combine those signs together. So that's come up in my discussion with residents. I know that you wrote a letter as well. And it's come up with discussions with other council members that we think that we might be able to consolidate some of those signs and things like that. So what we need to do is, and that's been delegated to us to make a recommendation to go do that. And so working with Steve Tyler, we need to set a time when we want to go look at those, and then decide what we want to go do, and then the town will take action to consolidate, provided that it's still in line with the obligations of the standards that the state has set. And so hopefully that will be some good news to some people. But it will require us to do something, and nothing will be done until we actually make a recommendation. So the onus is on this committee to find a time to go do it, and then work with Steve to discuss that. Secondly, we had done a study. We were looking at traffic counts on several different roads, and then there was a program being put together by the city of Menlo Park with regards to their safe routes to school, and the two were being done independently. But we had done an analysis on traffic. I had discussed several times. The traffic goes on Laurel and goes up Encinal to Encinal School, or it goes down Laurel and primarily goes up then to MA. And on the safe routes to school that Menlo Park is working on, they too had been looking at, what can we do to have bike lanes go all the way down Oak Grove and then intersect at University to get onto Santa Cruz, and go all the way from MA all the way down to Hillview and make that safe. And so, kind of a perfect storm, our two things came together. So our plan that we have doesn't show Oak Grove, so I think what we need to do is we need to
Okay, I think we're skipping to item E.
E, yeah.
well, I know, but maybe, but
That's fine,
these
I
are
just wanted
some
to-
things I need to bring up
Yeah.
because I've got another meeting I've got to go to.
Okay.
I've got to go to the Peninsula Clean Energy Board meeting next. So anyway, so that's one thing that we need to look at, and then I'd spoken with George. So we'd be taking the Class 2 lanes off of Glenwood, but I had suggested to George that we put some sharrows, some famous sharrows, on Glenwood, because on the weekend, the bike teams sometimes go down, and when they have the tour to Menlo, they come down and they go down Glenwood. So while it's not going to be a Class 2, we should recommend that it would be conservatively signposted with our new process on Glenwood to be sharrows. And so those are the two things that my discussions with George and my discussions at the council and the direction from the council for this committee. So any questions from me on those two items?
Would you, my question, you said that there's some that, would you pinpoint where they're maybe too close or too far apart so that we can check them out ourselves to discuss them?
Yes.
Or
Yeah,
So
if I
Steve
may.
is here to
Yeah.
start talking
So
about that.
what I did was I went out and took a ride with George and kind of got a pretty good idea of what he had in mind as far as a way to maybe weed out some of the signage, whether it's pavement markings or actual signs, consolidate some things up and maybe not make it so overwhelming what's out there. So one of the first things we looked at, if you notice, like at the beginning of Fair Oaks, you have a past 3 foot minimum sign, as well as a shed roadway or a full lane, bicycle lane sign. Put those both on the same sign. Let's get rid of a pole. Boom, one done right there. We can do that. When you turn from Selby Lane School onto Selby, we've got a bicycle lane sign. And we've got it right, just down from it, there was a 35 mile or a 25 mile an hour sign. Let's put them on the same sign. Let's get rid of some of all this multiple bang, bang, bang that we've got going around. In conjunction with that, one of the biggest sticklers of this plan that's come out is where we have the multi-directional sharrows telling you to go different ways. First of all, a lot of people don't really know what those mean. Eventually they will. And I've been seeing a lot of bike lanes going up and down the peninsula. Still, this is the only place I've seen them. So
Yeah, this is unique, but I think 10 neat.
well, and you could look at it like that, but almost everywhere there's one of those, we also have a bike lane sign telling you, or there's a street sign or something. So why not take those markings off, the arrows off the ground, and put them on the pole? Put the arrows on the pole, bike lane, whichever way it's going.
Consistent with what Palo Alto has done, I mean,
Actually, I actually prefer it on the street, because you tend to
You
look
see
at
it.
the street, you kind of, your field of view becomes narrow. Looking on the sign, the printing is often too small to see.
Well, it won't be printing, they will actually be placarded arrows that'll sit
Yeah.
below the sign. The sign's yay big and those
Right.
arrows
I
will
think it's kind of unique of having on the
Go
pavement.
off the
We've
side.
had a lot of complaints from residents on.
a lot of complaints.
a lot of
So
complaints.
these are some of the things that I've gone out and I'm looking at places that we can do this. Once I get this done and we can get this back onto a regular version, then you can go out and look at it and say, okay, what is he talking about here? Oh yeah, I can see that. Hey, you know what? I like the street ones better,
Right.
or the other ones. So that's going to be the starting point. Is I'm going to get this together here.
Okay.
I've already got it about a third done. I need to do some more work on it. I'm trying to do it between other tasks that are going on, like some pretty big stuff we've got going on here in town right now. But I'm making way when I've got time, and I expect I'll have this done soon, in the next few weeks. So
By our
I'll
next
get
meeting.
this done, and I'll get this onto a plan, and then get it to George. He can then ascertain, yes, this is what I get this too, and then we can get it to this.
In the meantime, the rest of the committee could also look at areas they think and make a note of it, and when we get together, then we can make sure that we do it, and then possibly go out and even look at it, if we can arrange for that.
Mhm.
Because that's really what I think.
I'm renovating.
That's what the charge was from the council, was that we were to
Go take a look at
go
it.
look at it and make a recommendation. So you need to do your part, we need to do our part, and then together we need to do a joint part and then make a recommendation back to the council.
Yeah, I mean, if we drove around, we could get around a lot faster.
But if we
than
could get a van, you know,
bicycle.
we go
Right.
together, it's like when
Yeah.
when the council went and looked at all the drainage locations. I
Mhm.
mean, that worked out well, everybody was together and we could discuss as we were going from location to location. We all saw the same thing.
And if the complaint is that they're not pretty, or that they, or.
Like there's too many or something.
There's too many, they're too large, they're too many, they're, don't know what they mean, so.
It's clutter.
Yeah, and, a number of years ago, there was a big push to eliminate signs, because they didn't want the signposts and things like that, and now suddenly we just put sometimes 2 and 3 signs up.
I understand.
You know, I
Well-
make one observation, that to me, I'm seeing a lot more of the markers on
Everywhere.
the street. And I think those may be more effective for drivers,
Mhm.
than the signs alongside. The ones alongside, when I see them, I think, well, those are for bicyclists, that's to tell them how to go. But the ones on the street are telling me how to share this road with the cyclists, so.
I think also the ones in the street really give the same message to the bikes.
Yeah.
I tend not to look at the signs on the side, because it is, as you go faster, your field of view goes narrower, so you're looking at the street and trying to pay attention to what's, in front of you.
On the other hand, I think street paintings requires no maintenance in the
Yeah.
cities.
Lydia had a
The,
statement.
the,
Just,
the,
Yeah.
just a second, yes.
So, one of the things that I heard Bill say is that we're gonna consolidate the signs, and my biggest issue is that the signs are kind of meaningless, so there are, and I do realize that we have to stay within, what's already available for California, in order to the signage, and I know you, what was your name again? John, and I know, John, you were saying that you have to stay within what's already available in order to put signs for bikes. Then the signs that I like, if we have to go with what's there, because if it were up to me, I would be innovative and make a sign that tells drivers that they have to give cyclists 3 feet of space. There's gotta be, somebody's gotta be able to come up with there's so many cool design applications now. You can come up with a decent sign that says, give them 3 feet when you pass in some way, but that doesn't exist.
we have that.
It's
Actually,
it does say
that
that.
is-
We have it.
It says 3 feet,
Past
but you have
3 foot
to see.
minimum, and it's a regulatory sign, it's
That
black
is
and white,
regulate-
which
that
is
is regulate.
There's not-
illegal,
Is
like
that the
give
one
you a
that
ticket.
says, is that the one that says bikes can take up the,
Nope.
the one that's at the
Nope.
beginning of Atherton?
It's
I don't
past
see,
3
where
foot
is
minimum.
that?
There's one at the corner of Fair Oaks,
Because there's a few
and,
options
uh,
for that.
Right.
Okay, I gotta
there's
go
one
look
on
at
the
those.
corner
I
of
still have-
Alameda and Atherton Avenue as you start down.
Well, there's that, and there's also, I'm wondering if we can have,
There's a couple
especially on
others there.
Atherton Avenue, that is a crazy road. With all the construction and everything, I mean, tell cars either the yellow sign that says share the road and get rid of, you don't like that?
I don't like share the road, I like to, use
Three-
full lane or 3 feet.
3
would be
feet.
Well,
fine.
yeah, I want-
Eventually Atherton
Right.
Ave is gonna be, a class 2, it's just that at this point in time.
Oh, okay,
I mean,
good,
To make it a class 2, was gonna require improvements to the road that were gonna cost several millions of dollars, and we're also looking at changing of ordinances that might ask owners as they're doing new
I
construction
remember that,
to do that.
right,
So,
got it.
until then, we still felt that Atherton Ave was a high traffic for bicyclists, and so we wanted to put something there as opposed to waiting, and so we did the Sharrows, and that's why it's Sharrows,
No,
but
Sharrows are
eventually
okay,
it's
yeah.
going to be a class 2.
Okay, good. Can you, if it's gonna be, so which one was the one where it's painted green and actually elevated a little bit, like,
That's out here at Marsh Road.
and what class is that again?
That's a class 2 or class 3.
That'd be class 2, and
Can we have a green lane all the way
That'd be
going
fine.
down Atherton Avenue?
not yet, that's gonna require money.
That
Oh.
requires widening of the road.
Time and money.
Okay.
But eventually, I mean, in high areas where there's crossing traffic, when you're going, if you're on the bike and you're on Marsh Road, and you know how they have the right lane turning, and so you have to move over and you're kind of in the middle of the road, well, we were having people almost getting clipped. It's similar to
Oh,
down
gosh, yeah, I
Alpine
know
Road.
that, yeah, oh,
And
yeah.
so that's the most useful
Where you
place
gonna
for
put
those
green?
green things,
Awesome.
or like Menlo Park has done,
Right.
coming down Ravenswood.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that really gets your attention, and that's the purpose of those,
Right.
as opposed to having one green line that's just 100% the whole way.
Mhm.
It's to get your attention.
I know, I like
that
it.
people are going this way. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you certainly do notice the green.
Oh,
But
gosh,
then I
yeah.
know also you want the most dangerous areas to
So
be.
if we know of an area like that where we have a class 2 or a class 3, then we should identify that and say maybe we should paint that green. Okay.
No, I vote for Atherton Avenue. That's a rough road to ride up and down on a bike. It's scary, especially with all the construction stuff, Gardner trucks, the whole thing, and the food trucks going up and down there. Those are scary. A lot of
But
scary.
we need to widen
Yeah.
the road in most cases.
Right,
I know.
Yeah, so
yeah.
Okay,
it's a
I'm
work in progress on that.
Okay, thanks, Bob.
Okay. Any other comments about B? Next part, do you have some input as far as the feasibility of one, I guess it's supposed to be 1 and 2, bike pedestrian improvements? Was somebody going to address that?
Yeah.
Mary Grace?
So, I apologize, I don't know if people have seen these studies yet or not. But, there was the study done about the feasibility of the class 1 and class 2 bike lanes, and they addressed, where the impacts were: trees, limited road width, driveways and swales and those types of things. So I believe the intent here today is to just chat about it, get people's input as to what was identified. There was kind of a summary of constraints chart that was in here that identified which roads had a little bit more issue than others, and kind of get update and input on what people's thoughts were as far as priorities and feasibility of actually getting these facilities in.
Could you tell us which ones those
This is
are?
from that meeting that we had at the park about 6 months.
Right, yeah,
And this is the same charts.
yeah.
So,
But off our top of our head, I mean, if we were supposed to discuss them, it'd be nice if you could.
so I'll give you, I can give you a little bit of an update or a little summary here of what the variety of constraints were that were analyzed on these different options. And then this identified the proposed improvement locations were what resulted out of this. So the issues that they looked at were utility poles, traffic signs, landscape encroachments, vegetation, trees, driveways, drainage inlets, manholes, and curbs. So they looked at Atherton Avenue, they looked at Selby, they looked at Glenwood, Middlefield, and Watkins. Of those, just to give you an idea of where conflicts were, so for example, on Atherton Avenue, you had 13 utility poles that were impact to try and make that project work. You had about 2,000 feet of landscaping. You had about 94 driveways that would be impacted, 23 drainage inlets, 51 manholes, and a curb line, about 550 feet of curb line that would need to be relocated. And they looked at two options for each of these. The Atherton Avenue one, the alternative one. Give a quick summary of what option one was. I'll send these 2 pages around so folks can kind of take a look as to what the variety of options were.
But that was like $6.8 million, Atherton Ave all alone.
Just a lot.
Atherton, alternate one was 2.1, alternate 2 was 2.8. Selby Lane, for example, was 1.2 million for alternate 1, 1.6 for alternate 2. Glenwood was 370,000 and 540,000. Middlefield was at 320,000 and 700,000. Watkins was 780,000 and 8.4 million.
Oh,
And
that's
then-
right.
Yeah, that was rough.
And Valparaiso
Cover
was
the,
not identified.
Drainage.
So each of these alternatives comes with a pretty big price tag to actually get them implemented.
Well, what we need to do, Mary Grace, is we actually need to go take a quick look at Oak Grove, since that's gonna be done.
So Oak Grove, to talk to the study that was done for Oak Grove, I'll give an overview of that. And the cost to implement Oak Grove were really cost effective to do something there.
Yeah, it's like 100
I think
feet.
it was like, 50, here it was. The option 1, which is to widen 4-foot class 2 bike lanes with 10-foot vehicle lanes. And the reason these are so cost effective for this one is the pavement width is already there. So one option requires some elimination of some parking, and the other one, it's not eliminating parking. So we were looking at 60 to 65,000 or 55 to 60,000. So these are options that are very feasible, and something that can get a safer route put in place, and seems to be more of a consistent route with what Menlo Park has identified in their plan, and is more of the route that services the high school, et cetera, along that route.
Is it possible for us to get copies of this stuff in the
Most
future?
definitely, yeah.
So that we know, what we can look at and see what, at least
Definitely, yeah.
develop some kind of a
We'll get these
feel for
emailed
that.
out to everybody and
Okay.
what have you, so.
Well, I think the most important thing for us, given where we are with Menlo Park and the
Yeah.
safe routes to school, is for us to recommend the improvements to Oak
Oak Grove.
Grove in accordance with the traffic studies that they've done on Glenwood and Oak Grove and Encinal. And say, okay, we're going to do Oak Grove because we talked to, George has already had a discussion with
Menlo
the McIntyre, and I've already been in touch. In fact, this all started with discussions with their bike committee about 4 or 5 months ago when they first asked us if we would be. Well, first off, they were just gonna go do it, and I said, don't you know that that's part of Atherton? And then there was a big discussion about that, and then they decided, then they wanted to have, for you, Larry, they wanted to be able to have it go all the way down Oak Grove, all the way down into Lindenwood. And we pretty much told them that that was off the table, that we weren't planning on doing that because of the width of the road, and that we didn't wanna have this, they proposed at one time, routing Dunbarton traffic all through Lindenwood.
John, did you have a?
Yeah, I just add a little, I guess I went to the Menlo Park Council meeting maybe a couple of weeks ago where the Bike Commission presented their, the Glenwood, yeah, or Oak Grove to the council as a proposal. It was an informational meeting. And what I thought was nifty about it, they were in the middle of the park. There are several portions where there's parking allowed, and part of the plan is to eliminate the parking. In the downtown portion, there are certainly a lot of lots that people can use. And the other interesting feature is, okay, you eliminate parking, that frees up quite a bit of space to put bikes, so they were actually going to put what's known as buffered bike lanes. So in other words, I'm going by memory here, you've got the curb, you've got a bike lane, and you have a 2-foot no man's zone where it's sort of crosshatched, so that gives a little bit more, quote, buffer between the cars and the motorists. And I can't remember whether they thought about how that goes into the Atherton part of Oak Grove, but anyway, that was on the table. That's what they proposed.
All the way down Oak Grove or just going through Santa Cruz?
I don't know. I don't remember the details.
Yeah,
I think it was probably all the way to. I'm going to make a guess to at least the train tracks.
Yeah, my understanding is they wanted to have, because they want to route the bikes not only down Oak Grove but also Santa Cruz. And
Actually, that was a. Yeah,
and so the buffered, as I recall, the buffered lanes were going to be through Santa Cruz where all the parking was, the commercial stuff, but maybe further. But our commitment to them was we were just going to put a class 2 bike lane on Oak Grove. They asked us would we be willing to put sidewalks there, and we said no, because we're not going to pay for them. And I made that clear that Atherton doesn't see a need for it. We don't have sidewalks for the most part, and that we wouldn't cover the 100 yards with sidewalks. But if they wanted to pay for it, we might reconsider. And it was just on the south side that they wanted it. They only wanted it going one way for the sidewalk, but they want both sides for the bike lane.
Right.
Is there any other questions or?
Well, the only other comment I have is I think Cheryl's going down to Lindenwood, down towards Laurel School, would be a good thing. I mean, I live down there and I live there, and their kids go into Laurel, to and from Laurel, and it's super dangerous, from MA down to Edge, where you would turn right to go to Laurel. So I think that would be a good thing. And
So I guess we would probably want to. It's not on the agenda, but that may be something where we could.
Actually, that's something I want to talk about because we have it on to talk about capital improvement projects.
Okay.
So we can identify.
So are you asking us now to maybe have somebody make a motion that we can recommend that they go on ahead with what they want to do?
Yeah, I think that's what we need to do.
Would somebody be willing to make a motion to that effect?
So the recommendation would probably be to eliminate the designation of a Class 2 on Glenwood and reassign that Class 2 to Oak Grove.
Oak Grove. Is there somebody who's willing to make that recommendation? Peter, thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? All right, we have voted to recommend the changes to Oak Grove.
That recommendation, then the impacts to that, so to say, are we will be talking then with council about direction on how to move forward with outreach or removal parking between Laurel.
No, we don't own from Laurel.
I'm sorry.
We own from past Nativity Church,
Right.
and there's a street over there. You may know Joe.
Bassett.
No, Bassett's on Laurel, on the other side, across from Nativity Church.
Marcuson?
Yeah, no, there's one north of that.
Magnuson?
Yeah. But anyway, and so it just goes from that intersection, which is right across from the Nativity Church, up to Middlefield.
Midfield.
And as you get near Middlefield, there is a left turn lane there, so there is some constraints, and there are a couple options to look at there. That's running that about $5,000-$10,000 difference in those options. And one would be to widen the pavement to accommodate the class 2 by removing a valley gutter, and that would allow for the 10-foot vehicular lanes and the 4-foot bike lanes without removing any trees. And
But we're already doing improvements. We have a project to improve
Right.
that corner right now.
and then their second option is looking at 5-foot wide bypass that would be detached and kind of move away from the pavement a little bit. So
And I think we should do the green lines for the turning,
I think
because
that's
people
an
come up
excellent
there
idea.
and they may want to go down Middlefield.
It's Rebecca.
Rebecca, okay, so
Rebecca,
it's from Rebecca North, or Rebecca East is
Yeah.
where we are, and then, and I think that the recommendations for the, whatever you said that the cost,
the costs that are estimated here be in the $60,000 to $65,000.
so we should recommend that get added to the SIP for this year, and then, but we need to understand, there's a project right now, Steve, you may know what it is, but we are doing something, because we'd already approved changes, and we got money for it,
That's right.
to improve that intersection of Middlefield and Oak Grove,
Right.
so the numbers may be less.
That's right.
And we don't wanna do that and then suddenly tear it
Right.
out.
You want to do
Right,
it in
no,
coordination.
We definitely want to do the projects in coordination, and the costs that are in here are just
So this is a perfect
straight
time,
construction costs. So
because we're doing
what we
the,
would do is we would
plans
put together some
right now. That's the first
recommendations
part
for
we're
the
doing
total
that.
package.
Yeah.
this fiscal year, so.
Actually, another little side comment, I guess at that council meeting, someone, I guess with regards to the parking on that section of Oak Grove near Menlo Atherton, someone made the comment that most people parking there are students.
So high school students,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
the churches
Well,
complain.
I guess arguably, one would like to think that once you put a bike lane in there, more students will use it, so there'll be less demand for parking. One would like to think.
Yeah,
Okay?
yeah, well, yeah, you're right,
So it'll be a win-win.
right.
Well, we are gonna, on, I think it's the 25th of May, the council is meeting with members of all the school boards that have, including the private schools that are here in Atherton. And our hope is to develop a relationship like we have with the fire district, where we can talk to them about student impact of parking, student traffic, and as they change their campus, make sure that there's ample space for drop-off and pick-up, so we don't have the traffic congestion. Because today, other than the private schools, we have no say, they just do what they want. And then we end up having to go support it and hear the client, the customer or resident complaints. And so that's not on the agenda, but just to make you aware that the council is looking into that as well. We're starting the conversations at May 25th. And that's our date.
I had a question. I wanted to ask you, Bill, because I've been thinking about this for a while. And on Paul Hemus, there's a sign that actually records speed of cars coming, because that's the only road in Atherton with a hill. And so there's like this,
Well, Ridgeway has a hill,
like, oh really?
yeah,
Really? Is it like, is it as steep as the Paul Hemus hill?
well,
It's the
no.
only road east
Oh.
of
Fletcher.
Yeah.
Allen.
Fletcher, Stockbridge.
Alta Vista,
Fletcher.
Ridgeview.
Oh, well, yeah, those are way up there, yeah,
Yeah,
right.
It's
Melanie?
not the only road, but.
No,
I mean,
it's, well, okay, well,
Yeah.
so, but what I was wondering is, and it's not the only road, and it's true, there's that speed thing, how did that ever happen?
Well, there's one in Lindenwood too, there's on
Is there?
There's
James.
several
There's one in
of
James.
them around. There's
Oh.
one on Stockbridge, there's one on Watkins.
Oh, right, yeah.
And so, those were put in a number of years ago, and we spoke with the chief. I've spoken with the chief. I mean, there've been some improvements to some of those to where they would actually do more than just do this, they don't take
Monitoring.
pictures or anything, but we'd get a better recording of what the speed is. And so that may be something that, I think the council should take up on their plan. So those things cost about, if I remember right, about $25K a piece. And there's battery operated ones where they have to have access to electricity.
How come
solar
they
ones
should be
now.
solar,
Solar.
yeah.
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 It depends how much tree cover you have.
Yeah, I
and
mean,
they're not solar.
Yeah.
Fair Oaks,
They're all
there's,
solar
we
now.
would be covered.
All
by-
the
yeah.
major streets should have
Have them.
those,
They
okay, and it would help, especially if they can record it, so then the police department could, you know,
Chase 'em down.
periodically look at that and then decide if they need to, you know, where should they do traffic stops, or should they increase traffic stops and things like that when time permits. So,
They're usually very effective. Is what I
Oh,
find.
yeah,
They are. Right now the one we have is a mobile one. It's called the Jaguar radar recorder. So but it's not fixed anywhere. We can set it out at different locations, and it helps us with traffic counts.
There's a car on Atherton Avenue that I see there all the time. It's a cop car. You guys just put that
They
thing
move it
there just
around
to
various
slow.
places.
that's our decoy.
Is that the decoy?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's not our decoy. It has an officer.
Yeah.
No,
Right.
there's
He's
nobody
just-
in
you
there.
can't see.
Oh, no, there isn't.
Sometimes
Nobody
it's
is.
manned, sometimes it's not.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. You never know.
And they move it, it's not just on that, it's been on
Yes,
Fair
that's
Oaks,
why
it's
we
been
put
on a
it on.
variety
That
of
thing
different
is
places,
hilarious.
right? I mean, they move it around,
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
move it around.
Yeah, they move it around, and it is effective for the first day or two.
Right, right, and then
And
it's
when I
not.
see it, I always stop and I always talk to it, you know.
Yeah.
Police
That's
officer
right.
in there.
No, we actually go up to the motorcycle policemen that are there and thank them for doing what they're doing.
Yeah. I'm always waving at them, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Thank
wave,
you.
wave at the decoy too.
Oh, no,
Yeah.
I do. Oh, I do.
Might wave back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, we're off target.
Sorry.
I'm sorry. All right, so are we on to D, which is the review of the capital improvements, or are we, I'm confused at this point.
I think we are pretty much there. What I will do is I'm going to distribute this study about the feasibility to give everybody some background, and we can chat about it more at the
Good.
next meeting.
More
How's that sound?
intelligently, yes.
So with regards to that, you know, our first priority was Middlefield. And is there anything else that we need to do on Middlefield, Steve?
As far as I know now, that qualifies as a class 2 bike lane.
Okay, but
I mean-
there's no additional improvement that we need to do, because that was our number one, and
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of spots that you could say are a little narrow, like when you go by Marsh Road, by the guardrail and stuff, but I think that everybody's kind of bought in that that's just gonna be what it is. I mean, you know, there's minimum widths of lanes and stuff, and there's just a couple of spots.
I could use your assistance with me being the newbie around here. This was the priority list that was
Okay.
out of the bike ped master plan, and it identified a
Right,
series of
yeah.
projects that were
yeah, but
the priority.
But-
the council
Has changed.
made their own priority.
Yeah, right.
And the priority, which we've gone over before, Middlefield was number one.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Middlefield's listed on
Right,
several
It
projects.
was
in
the, it
here.
was the number one
Right.
project. Fair Oaks through Atherton Ave was another one. Selby Lane was another one. The Valparaiso project, which Menlo Park is doing, and we already have our class two, that was another one, and Watkins. And those were the five, and we said those are the only five we're doing right now, in addition to putting the Sharrows down.
Right.
So to give people kind of an idea budget-wise where things are, we're looking at about $284,000 being rolled forward from previous year's budget. And what was currently identified in the CIP is a projection for $100,000 to be added to that in fiscal year 2017. So if council chooses to fund, that's identifying in the CIP just under $400,000 of monies that could go to bike ped improvements. If I'm understanding correctly, the Oak Grove improvement is looking at going to that. I'm gonna give everybody a qualifier here that, you know, this study is saying the 60 to 65,000, and I think we need to take a look at that, and I'll work with the consultants to get the full package of what that is, you know, the engineering, the outreach, all that fun stuff, so that we can get a total number for what that'll be, because this 65,000 is construction. So there's additional costs that'll go in there, so you're probably gonna be closer to the $100,000 range is my guess by the time that's totally brought into fruition. So then there's still some dollars that are identified in the CIP for bike ped improvements, and that's where I wanted to get some guidance from you all of where the priorities are and what we should be looking at as recommendations to council for the fiscal year 16-17 capital improvement project.
Well, there's, Selby Lane has got to be an issue, because
Oh.
we always are having problems with Selby Lane.
Which Selby are you? The one connect to
Going
El
down
Camino or
towards,
Atherton?
from the El Camino down.
East-west.
Right.
That's West Selby.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So going down towards the school
Mhm.
is an issue. We have officers there all the time. And
West Selby, West Selby.
And there might be an opportunity for us to get grant money, because it's really a multi-jurisdictional
Absolutely.
school. It's minority, predominantly minority school, and so that's when we said we would fund Selby Lane and doing work on Selby Lane. We said that we did that for the hope that we would be able to get grant money to go do that. So if we can,
We can look at safe routes is probably your best.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and that's a
say-
road
say
that ought
that's
to have
good.
one of those speed signs because of all
Well,
the kids.
Yes,
Right.
That's the
definitely. I
one
mean,
that needs it
there's
the
a lot of
most.
places that need the speed sign, but I have, having been a teacher at one part of my life, I really have a concern about making it safe for the kids to get
Yeah.
to and from.
That road
Personally,
especially.
that's where I feel, whatever their color or complexion, they're kids, they're children.
So we can do some outreach to neighboring jurisdiction and talk about a potential project through
And-
there. If we're looking for a funding option, chances are it wouldn't be a construct in fiscal year 16-17, but we could get an application put together and what have you. The question is, do we wanna consider something in the interim, to do anything?
Seems to
Do
me
we
the
wanna
interim
be-
one is, and I don't know what your resurfacing schedule is, but that's often a very opportune time to at least put down sharrows. But I guess for West Selby Lane, seems to me that we may be talking about a two-step project, two steps. One is to put sharrows down, and then with more money, because I guess it's gonna require lighting and a lot of other infrastructure, is to put the bike lanes in.
I just wanna make sure that, cause I'm hearing some people say West Selby,
Yeah, I think.
and West's, there is a West
I guess that may
Selby,
be
but
an
it's
account.
not Atherton.
Yeah, I guess that's the.
Right,
I
right.
guess the
Yeah.
extension of West
Oh,
Selby.
West
Yeah.
Selby
Atherton.
isn't.
So the western
Right.
portion of Selby Lane,
Right, that goes
Is-
down.
as it goes
Redwood
past the
City.
school, will turn into West Selby. I just wanna make sure that there's the
Right.
clarification.
Yeah,
Right.
it's
Where does
confusing.
it end?
At the junction where Selby,
At Selby,
it's
Selby's-
Selby,
Selby and
from El
Selby.
Camino up to Selby.
So how do you
So
guys-
Selby also runs off of Atherton Avenue, and it
No,
connects.
I know, I live on
So,
Selby.
okay, so
Yeah.
Selby and Selby's where it ends.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Selby.
guess how
Oh,
Yeah,
do you keep it straight?
What we're talking about there.
Selby and Selby.
Yeah, but how, do you say, do you say El Camino or Atherton Selby? I mean, do you- which-
Well, we
oh.
would go by the block. So
Oh.
I know if you're talking 400 block of
Oh,
Selby.
you know the address.
Yeah.
Okay,
Right.
Yeah.
alright.
The other
I
thing
was
is
not
that Alameda was on the list as well. And I don't know what we need to do on Alameda,
Yeah, it's
but
got
there's
bike
a school
lane.
down there.
Right. And it's got bike lanes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it needs additional signage and
So
Yeah,
there's some things in the master plan, and so, part of my newbiness, but I will trust all you to kind of tell me if I'm in the right zone or not. There were some options identified, Selby Lane between El Camino and Selby Lane.
Mhm.
I'm assuming that's the segment we're
That's it.
talking about.
Yes, yes.
There were some options looked at for about 178,000. Again, that's construction costs. That was an alternative. Oh, I'm sorry, that's not the whole thing. The whole thing was 1.2 million.
have to white.
Oh, piece of cake. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
right.
we'll look at things. My guess is that Safe Routes money would not cover that whole expenditure. It would be a partial, but we can look at, different alternatives.
Well,
And
well,
what might be good.
How about this, Mary Grace, since it was brought up? On every major safe route to school or major bike route, you know, of course, our little section on Oak Grove shouldn't count, but let's talk about Atherton Ave
Mhm.
and Fair, you know,
Fair Oaks and.
Fair
Sunny.
Oaks, you know, should we recommend that there be one of those, electronic,
Speed signs.
speed
Speed
signs?
signs.
I think that's something we should work with PD and with the traffic engineer as to where those would be most effective, but my understanding and my experience with those is, yeah, they're effective.
Yeah, so
They
why
should-
don't we
one in each
recommend
direction?
that? And that may help, especially in areas where we got, for example, Sharrows, that also helps slow the traffic down.
Right, altogether. I mean, even on El Camino, they've slowed down now that they know that policemen are watching. And it's safer to cross a little bit more.
Yeah, they do quite a bit
Yeah.
of enforcement out there.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's just,
There's
I'd
three.
throw that out.
Yeah. No, again, would somebody like to make a motion, a recommendation, so that we can?
Well, I think we're just having a chat, and
Yeah.
Mary Grace is writing
Yeah.
them down.
They're not mine.
I certainly agree with the signs. I think.
Yeah, I think we've got some opportunities to look at a few things. I think that's a great one, and I think we talked to our neighboring jurisdiction about opportunities to go in together on grant funding. Typically, you're more successful if you're shared jurisdiction and that type of thing on those types of options. And I think we should talk to our bike pay consultant about interim measures as well that can be put in place. Now, I want to be sensitive to the whole issue of signs and markings as well to make sure that,
Well, they can be placed so that they're outside and not have to be removed, hopefully, or something.
yeah, so what I would recommend is that we do a quick study, not something that's going to be oodles and oodles of money, but a interim safety study or something to improve awareness of bike ped joint use in these corridors, and come back with some recommendations as to dealing with speed awareness signs. Whether bike ped consultants have become very creative with opportunities, and there's been a lot more things that have been available. So, for example, where we have crossing elements, the rapid flash beacons have
Oh, yeah.
become very, very effective.
Right.
Those types of things. So I think that would be a good thing to look at, and then identify a certain amount of money to go towards those improvements that actually could get constructed this next year and get safety
And
increased
certainly the signs, the flashing
corridors,
signs.
so that we're not just talking
Yeah.
just studies, but
Yeah,
we're actually
do
talking
those-
things happening.
Do those flashing signs like around? I've noticed some of them around schools. They turn on. They start flashing between the time the kids are walking to school and
They
then
have to
they
push
There
start.
are some
They
of
push a
those,
button
but
usually.
the
Yeah.
No.
ones that are for the crossings, you actually.
I'm not talking about the
activate.
crossing ones. I'm talking the ones that I've seen them on the
Speed
street.
signs.
Yeah, they're just they
Kids-
say when
kids here, yeah.
children are present 25 miles an hour, and then there's some of them have the actual yellow lights that flash between the
Right.
hours of the kids getting out and going to
Yes.
school.
Yes, yes. And what's been shown to be most effective is rather than things in the pavement or what have you, that just eventually people just get used to being
Right.
there. When they're at eye level and they're in the LED, it does catch people's attention. Yeah, it's
Yeah, it's
basically
in your face.
In your face.
Yes.
That is
For
a very
purpose.
good term, and it's what you want.
Right.
It wakes them up.
So if I could also make a recommendation. So Encinal School on Encinal Ave has lots of kids going. In fact, that's the school in Atherton that has the most Atherton residents going to it.
Other
Okay.
than Laurel, I would think Laurel, but and
Laurel has, I can give you the numbers, but
Mm.
we have less than 10% of the kids at most of the schools. But Encinal, we're like 25 or 30%.
Really, not Los Alamitas? That's where I went.
No.
No,
So
yeah, that's a small
Really?
percentage. Yeah, a lot of that's
so
Wow.
anyway, Encinal to Laurel
Mhm.
is where the kids go. I mean, you could stand out here and you can watch it. You watch the kids come across. They'll come up Valparaiso. They'll hit Laurel. Then they'll take a left or they'll take a right. They'll go down Laurel either to Nativity School or to. But more kids are riding to Encinal School than are riding anywhere else.
Wow.
And so The Laurel Encinal intersection is a very dangerous one.
Oh,
First
yeah.
off, the cars on the Menlo Park side cut the corner and cut into the bike lane. And secondly, if you're coming down and you want to take a left so that you can go down to Valparaiso, which is how most of the kids go then, and then whether they're Atherton or Menlo Park people,
Yeah, children.
turning is might be an area where we want to go ahead and maybe put the green
Also.
lines going across too, just so people are aware, because these are little kids, okay? And if you stand out there and watch them, these little kids don't stop. They don't stop for the, you know, they don't think they need to stop, you know, and the parents that are with them often don't stop either, by the way. So I think something there might be worthwhile. And the other thing is that we're working on with Watkins and the safe routes to school through the park. So we had that at our last meeting. And so we're going to look at expanding the segment that's going to the park gate for the parents that have a key.
Goes out the back door.
And so
Yeah,
that
the
they
back
can,
door.
yeah, so they can ride there and ride legally through the park. And so we're going to expand the pathway to go do that. But Watkins is a dangerous place to ride as well, because people don't know whether or not they need to be on the one side of the hump or on the outside side of the hump, to where that if a car is too close, you know, they're running into the curb. It's just almost as bad really as Marsh Road. So something on Watkins where a lot of kids are also riding their bikes to go safe route to school or to go to the park and play baseball might be something where we would think we would want to do something.
One of the
It's just a
flashes or
suggestion of
something, yeah.
my observations of where we're having lots of kids riding bikes and where there's accidents waiting to happen. So it's my suggestion. If you guys want to do anything with that.
Yeah, no, I mean,
Suggest it. I can't suggest
So
it.
how do we get these things on the list? 'Cause I think
So
we're all
these,
good.
these is
Just
what,
right.
this is what I have listed, and, it would be great to have a motion if you want us to
right,
consider
I'm gonna ask.
studies and what have you, and I can come
Right.
back with, okay, here's kind of how it works
Yeah.
budget-wise, and what we can do this year,
Okay.
and identify projects where we can actually get something physically done this year, as opposed to just studies. So look at options on major bike routes for speed control signs or other improvements that will help, improve safety. Encinal School at Encinal Avenue, Laurel Encinal intersection, look at options for improvements there. And Watkins, we're already considering the safe routes, to school through the park, and Steve, I think we're covering that through the park.
But possibly
Is
some
that
green,
right?
are you
Or
thinking
you and I
maybe
need to
some
really
green
talk about
paint
that, where that fits
in
this
areas, or,
CIP.
yeah, possible green paint as well in that. We need to have a motion. Is
And
somebody
then the
willing?
last one was,
Yeah,
along
right.
Watkins needs assessment of some sort,
Right.
to see what can be done. I think there was a project that was originally identified for $435,000 from Watkins Caltrain to Middlefield, class one. Does that sound familiar?
Yeah.
That was Station Road though, I think.
Okay.
with it.
Well, people come through here, through this area, from Lloyd Park, through here, and then they cut across at Watkins.
Well, they go through
and
McCormick, too.
Then they go down, or they go
Yeah.
to the park, or they go down to Middlefield, or they cut
Yeah.
through the park.
Yeah, they go through McCormick a lot rather than Station though, I think too.
So I
But
think we should,
any, a motion?
well, I think we
Yeah.
should add that
Yeah.
the Sharrows on Oak Grove from Edge to Middlefield.
And Cheryl's maybe on Selby.
Yeah, I mean, all the kids that are going to Encinal are cutting through
Yeah.
So, I'm sorry, I had Sharrow's on Linden, on Lindenwood, is that?
on
No.
Oak Grove. and-
Oak Grove and Selby.
So it would be from Middlefield
Yeah.
down to Edge
Yeah.
on Oak Grove.
And Selby Lane down to El Camino.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that one more time, on Middlefield?
From Middlefield down to Edge
On Oak Grove.
On
On
Oak
Oak
Grove.
Grove.
on Oak Grove.
And Rebecca, you're right, it's not very long.
No, but the issue is that they're little kids.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm
that's the thing.
not arguing there at all. Is there a motion
I'll move it, yeah.
Thank you. All right,
I'll
a second,
second.
okay, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? Okay. We've discovered E. The next meeting is on Tuesday, May 24th. Please mark your calendar, 4:30. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay, I'm gonna go.